and welcome to live stream number 52. Today is Friday. We made it. We made it at the end of the week of live streams. It is August 25th, and thank you so much for taking the time to join today's live stream. Today's topic is a very important one. It is how to pan, zoom, rotate, and navigate inside of Fusion 360. I have to apologize. I have to admit that I made a mistake. When I did the Absolute Beginner series, there was one thing I left out, and that was how to navigate. I know many of you guys saw it. You guys are probably watching this. Saw that series, and I know it led to a lot of frustration from people. I'm truly sorry, man. That's what we're gonna. Well, you probably figured it out by now, but that's what I'm going to try to make up for today. I don't know. I am sorry. I know that a lot of people got frustrated that they couldn't figure out how to navigate around inside Fusion 360. I don't know how to make it up to you. If you ever come to Buffalo, New York, shoot me an email. It's down in the description area. I'll have to buy you a beer or something. So, that is what we're going to talk about today, is the pan, zoom, rotate. I can see we already got a bunch of people inside of the live stream. Really appreciate you taking the time. So, I got to answer one question before I start going into the basics. And a lot of people ask me in the comments area of the Absolutely Beginner video series how I rotate so smoothly. And I cheat. I'll admit that. I use one of these devices. Now, I have promised before that I'm going to do a video series reviewing these kind of like devices. And I will. I'm just time. I only use pretty much the rotating thing. I don't use all the different buttons. And they make them in different versions. And the cheapest one, you can just rotate around with this thing here. You don't need one of these, okay? I'm going to put this one over here. You don't need it. What you do need is, or I recommend you get, is I recommend you get a standard mouse. A standard mouse that has a left and a right button and a scroll wheel. Now again, this is from the same company as that other. It's called 3D Connection. This is a great mouse. Again, I only use the standard buttons. I don't use all the fancy buttons on these. You can get away, if you just bought a, out of the box, computer with a cheap $20 mouse. It's perfectly fine. All you need is the scroll wheel and you need the right and the left mouse button. I would recommend you getting that. You can use trackpads, but I recommend this. Okay, so that's what all I'm gonna use today. I promise. I'm sorry. So let's go into Fusion and talk about moving things around inside of Fusion. So like again, how to pan, zoom, rotate. You need to know this to really navigate inside of Fusion 360. So the first thing I want you to do is to go ahead, if you're a brand new user, and by the way, if you are watching the live stream or if you are watching the recording and you are past this level, just hang on because I might show you something you don't know. But if you're brand new, if you're scrolling on the mouse wheel, you will zoom in and out on it, okay? So this is what we was talking about, like navigating around. But before we get into all the buttons, if you go to your preferences, if you go and click your name and you go into preferences, now this is not going to be like very complicated. In the default window of your preferences in here, there is down here a setting where you can choose pan, zoom, orbit shortcuts. And if you click on that drop down, you will see that there's a couple of other pieces of software in here, Alias, Inventor, and SolidWorks. So if you're coming from one of these softwares, you don't have to go through this video. You can just switch over and everything is as the way you were before. The only other thing that I want to show you in here is that it's wow, I can't speak. It is Friday. Reverse zoom direction you can turn on and on in here. Because if you're coming from certain systems, like I just showed you, the scrolling wheel, rolling back and forth, you might feel that it's going the wrong way. So by going up, clicking your name, preferences, and checking that one, you will reverse the direction. Okay, so scrolling in and out will move the part closer or further away away from you. Now, the next thing I want you to do is I want you to double click on the middle mouse button, the one you just scrolled on. You click on it twice and you will see that the model comes back to you. So if you're a brand new user, you're now spinning, suddenly the model is like over here and you're like, you're trying to find it and you're scrolling and it gets off the screen. Double click your middle mouse button and it will bring it right back to where you were. You can also hit the F6 on your keyboard if you want to. So locate F6 and that will do the same thing. Now if you're holding down the middle mouse button, just hold it down and you start moving your mouse, you will see that you are going to pan. With the default Fusion 360 settings, you can now pan around, right? And again, if I double click the middle mouse button, it comes back, scroll in and out, then I can zoom in or zoom out like that. To rotate the model around, and this is where I think I caused a lot of confusion, hold down the Shift key on your keyboard and then press the middle mouse button and you will now see that you will be spinning around the model. So just to recap, scrolling in and out will zoom, double mouse button will fit to screen, hold down the middle mouse button will pan, and then Shift plus middle mouse button will let you move around in this orbit rotate mode. Now, if you're a brand new user, if this is like you're just starting out, I would actually recommend that you right now hit the pause button and open up Fusion and just play around with this a little bit, because this is how you're going to be navigating. So it is important that you get a feel for this. Now, it's going to take you like 30 seconds. You're going to be like, I got it. So that's kind of like the step one of this. Now, there's two other areas that when we're talking about navigating in here. There is below here, there's some navigation tools down here we're going to come back to. And then up here, there is it's called a view cube up here. And what this will let you do, you can see how it kind of like highlight the faces. If I click on the front face, what says front here, if I just left mouse click, you will see that it moves right to that front face. If I click on the little arrow above it, it actually rotates 90 degrees and now looks at the top. So I can kind of like do the same thing. I can go over and click here on the left side, and now we're looking at the left side. At the same time, I can go up on these areas up here and I can click on these arrows and I can rotate around that axis, whatever it is. So if I go over here and click on the top, now we're looking straight right down, I will now be rotating around that area. Now, you can also, just so you know, if you are over the view cube, if you hold down your left mouse button, you can actually also rotate the model around there. So you can get away with not holding down the Shift. So just over the view cube over here, if you hold down the left mouse button, you will rotate around. And then up here, there's a home button. Now, home means if you click it, everything's going to go back to where it was before. Home is safe, right? So if you click on any of these views and you're kind of like trying to move things around and trying to see things, and you suddenly, your view get all skewed, you can always hit home and it will take you right back to where you were. Now, if you, instead of selecting the faces, if you select right here on the intersection between the two, it would actually kind of like go and look straight at that angle. I can do the same thing on the bottom here, flip it around, and you can kind of like see how we're looking here. Also, and I'm going to come back to this in a second, but be aware of that there is a drop down over here, a little arrow. You can click on that and you're actually getting some other options. And I'm going to show you how you can change what is front, top, bottom, because that's something that can drive me nuts sometimes when I get a model in and it looks like it's upside down. Now this menu that shows, if you click on this little here, you can also get that by right clicking on the view cube. Okay, so the view cube is giving you a little bit more control. So in your daily, zooming in and out with the mouse wheel, spinning things around with the holding down the shift and the middle mouse button, but then the view cube kind of gives you a nice way to really get kind of like maybe a little bit more accurate in and looking at that model. Now, like I said, I'm going to come back and show you in a second how to change the view. I just want to show you the lower portion down here, because down here we have some other tools. Some of them are the same we've already been through, but some other ways you can attack them. If I hold down the shift key and the middle mouse button, we've already established that means I can rotate the part around. Now if I let go for a second, look down in this area down here for the Constraint Orbit. Right now there's nothing highlighted on that command down there, but as soon as I start rotating, you will see that it turns blue. You see that? Look down at the bottom screen on the orbit. Okay? That means that right now I am Constraint Orbit. If I click on the little button here, there's actually also a free orbit. Okay? Now at any point you can activate these. If I just click on the Constraint Orbit, now I'm actually spinning around just like if I was holding down the shift and the middle mouse button, but I'm rotating around just holding down my left mouse button. So that is Constraint Orbit. That's the one we've been using all the time. There is also a free orbit. If I click on that one and you play around with them, you will see that I'm spinning the model around also. So what is the difference between the free orbit and the Constraint Orbit? It really comes down to that with Constraint Orbit, the software is trying to keep whatever is top and bottom kind of like aligned. I prefer this way to spin around with the constraint versus the free, but I can use both, and you can with a little bit of practice too. But generally speaking, I am in a Constraint Orbit just by holding down the middle mouse button and the shift key while I'm rotating around. But just if you were wondering what the difference is. Now, I'm activated the constraint by clicking down here. So right now I can spin around with the left mouse button by first clicking down here. By the way, if you want to get out of this, escape. And you're out, you're back to normal. So now I could use my shift and middle mouse button to kind of like just go in and impulsively spin the model around. But if I want to stick with it, I just click down here, and now it's the left mouse button. Now, if I go front view, and this might be hard to see, there's kind of like a circle around here. Let me go in and change the background. If I go to display environment, and let's go to the pool. No, not the pool. Let's go to triangle blue. Whoa, that changed the screen. All right, I hope you can see there's kind of like an outline in here. This is maybe some of you guys who have used Fusion don't know about. But if you have that Constraint Orbit or Free Orbit on, you actually get this little outline here, a circle. And you will see my mouse changes. Right now, I'm just in that orbit we've been using all the time. But as soon as I let go, I get that circle. And when I hover over it, and actually my mouse changes here, and it changes here. You see how it changes the icon? Now let me go to the front. First, if I go to this icon, so right now I'm hovering right over the circle, hold down my left mouse button, I'm actually rotating, holding down the left mouse button around that axis. You see that? Okay. And if I go over, let me go make it just straight front again. If I go over here and I hover over the line, I'm actually rotating around that axis without my moving left or right changes that orbit. This really just gives you a little bit more control in the way that you can rotate your part around. Can really be handy if you're trying to do like animations and things like that. Okay, let's get out of the Constraint Orbit here by hitting the escape key, and let me go into in the environment and change it back to, I think I'm in a photo booth normally. All right, shift and middle mouse button, and I can spin this around, always hit the home button, and I'm back to normal. Then the next one I want to show you is this one here, look at. This can be extremely handy too. So right now, we've established that if I want to look at the front here, I can just click the front up here on the view cube, but I could actually also click on look at and select that face, and it will look at that. This can be extremely handy if you have some parts where you want to look at a specific angle or something like that. You can even, like, you know, pick different areas of your model here. Hold down middle mouse button and shift. I can go over and select that I want to look at, I don't know, the top view, and you can look right at that. So that's to look at. That can be really handy sometimes when you're spinning your model around. You're like, oh, I want to look at that specific face. Instead of going up and hit left or right, especially if your view is kind of like, if it's not the standard, this is a pretty square box, the look at is really nice. Now the next one here you've already seen. That's the same, that's the pan. So if you click that, you're panning. To get out of it, you hit escape. That's the same thing as holding down your middle mouse button and panning. You can click this one, and then the left mouse button will zoom in and out. I prefer to use the scroll mouse wheel. Hit escape to get out of that. And the next one here has two different options. Now there's fit, already talked about that. Double click with your middle mouse button, or hit the F6 key. I'll fit that. And then of course you can also select zoom window. Well, just let us create a window around the part, and we will zoom to that. That can actually be, kind of handy too sometimes, right? You can really get in close like that. Now that doesn't stay active. Okay, I'm gonna double mouse button to get out. Another thing you can do right now, if I do my rotation, shift middle mouse button and rotate around. If you look at the center of the part, you should see a little dot showing up, a little green dot. That is the center of rotation. And it doesn't really matter where I am with my mouse when I start the rotation. That's where that rotation point is. If you right mouse button, this is the first time I'm going to right mouse button in this video besides opening up the menu over here. Right mouse button in here, you can choose set orbit center. If I click on that, I can change. You see how I get the little green dot? I can now change that to wherever I want. If I place it right there and I hold down shift and middle mouse button, that is now where I am rotating around. That can actually be very handy if you have, like, if you're working on maybe on a part or an assembly where you really zoomed in really close and you really want to just rotate around that specific point right there. That can be handy. Right mouse button and you can reset the orbit center, and now you are back to the center of your model. Now I should also say that if I zoom really close in and I do the rotation, you will actually see that Fusion finds the point closest to where my mouse is. So you can zoom in here. It's only when the whole model is on the screen that it defaults to the center of the part. I hope this is kind of helpful. The last thing I want to show you that used to drive me absolutely nuts, especially if you are importing files from other systems, is when you bring a file in and what is up, you think what should be up is now front or side or something, and you're like, man, I'm kind of like looking to the side to be able to look at this part. And that is the way you can change your view. So to do that, you go up to this view cube up here, and you can click on this little dialog right here, and down at the bottom there is set current view as. Okay, so right now if we're looking at this model, spin it a little bit, shift plus the middle mouse button, you will see the top here is, well, if I click on that, the top is top. And that is really what I would say on this part is correct. But if you, for example, brought this into another piece of software, or it came in from another piece of software, you might see that what you thought should be top should be this. Well, but it's a front here, And every time you go like into an isometric view or something, it throws everything off. So how do you change this front to be top? And really all you're doing is you're changing the way you're looking at the part. Think about you are looking at the part almost like a camera right now. You're having a lens looking at the camera. We're just changing the lens. We're moving the lens. We're not moving the part around or the origin around. So I'm in the front view. So move it to the view that you would like to be top. And then go down and click on this little arrow down here. Go down to set current view as and change this to top. And as soon as I click on this, you will see that up on the view cube, what says front will be top. 3, 2, 1. Now that is top, which means when I start spinning this around, you will see that now it moved everything so that to be top. Now, I didn't move the model. I just moved the way I look at the camera. So to bring it back again, I'm going to click on what I want to be top. What's going to be this part? I'm just going to rotate it around on the arrows here. So that is really back right now. I'm going to right click or go down to the menu, same thing. Click on that little box down there and say set current view to top. And you will see that the back changes to top. Okay. So just to recap here, and again, I apologize for all the confusion. To scroll in and out, middle mouse button. To be able to fit to zoom, just double click on the middle mouse button and it gets right back into zoom. To pan, hold down that middle mouse button and you're panning. And to spin it around, you just hold down the shift, hold down the middle mouse button, and you are now spinning around. I hope that that was helpful. I'll buy you a beer if you're ever in town. If that cost you to be ready to punch me when you were watching the Absolutely Beginner series, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time. I hope this was helpful. If you like this, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up. If you don't, thumbs down, man. Let's be honest here. And if you haven't already, I really appreciate that you hit that subscribe button. Like I said, it's Friday. It's August 25th, live stream number 52, and I really appreciate you taking the time. Now, I got to say that we're taking a break next week because, as many of you guys already know, I am actually going to the headquarters for Autodesk to chit-chat with the boss and the boss's boss. One of the things we are going to talk about is these live streams and if they really are worth anything. I appreciate everybody who have already reached out to me via my email, what you, by the way, can find down in the description area, letting me know what you thought about these live streams and if it's something that we should push for keeping on doing, if it's bringing value. That's really all I'm trying to do, is adding some value to your Fusion 360 experience. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this cleared a couple of things up. If you're a brand new user, jump in there. It's, you will get a hang of this in no time. And I really hope that you enjoy using Fusion 360. If you're already experienced, I hope you picked up a couple of things. I'm going to do like I normally do. I am going to end the broadcast. So if you're watching the recording, thank you so much. I'm going to jump into the live stream. We got 67 people today on a Friday. You guys are awesome. I'm going to jump into the live stream, say hi to everybody. And until the next time, have an awesome, awesome day and weekend. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.